Hey y'all, it's day 11 of 22 push-ups a day for veteran suicide awareness. Yesterday, we went over the song and everything, talked a little bit about the different aspects of being able to use songs in order to connect with other people's expressions of feeling and everything. Today, going to talk about a couple different types of guilt and shame. I'm still talking from Chaplain Miller's worksheet right here. And the other day I talked about genuine, real guilt. And if there's genuine, real guilt, does that mean that there's false guilt? And there is, I believe. Chaplain Miller defines false neurotic guilt as feelings of regret related to what someone else believes we should have done or not done, or other feelings of guilt not associated with a betrayal of one's value system. And I think that we've all had people, kind of give us guilt trips and stuff like that. Sometimes we can use guilt against other people in order to make them do the things we want them to do. If we can make somebody feel guilty, then maybe we can get them to do something for us. And, that's obviously selfish and everything. But I think that's an example of false guilt, Neurotic guilt, I think, is defined differently, though, because I think that we as human beings, we have a natural tendency to think that we're a whole lot more powerful than we really are. And, I've talked to many patients in the hospital that, they've lost their loved ones or whatever, and they've said, if only I could have done this, if only I could have done that. And it's just like, sitting there looking at it from a different perspective, it's like, but could you have done that, And that's where the neurotic guilt comes in, is that we think that we should have been able to do something. We think that we should have just magically been awake at 3 o'clock in the morning and been able to, help somebody an elderly person that had fallen in the house and possibly could have saved their life. But, the reality is, who's going to be awake at 3 o'clock in the morning, That's an example that I like to use for neurotic guilt. And for these type of guilts, it says here, working through those, working with a trusted friend, family member, spiritual leader, or behavioral health professional to identify and separate genuine guilt from neurotic guilt and deal with the causes of the distress. And this is so important. Once again, I'm gonna say it, guilt and shame tries to isolate you from other people. If it can get you by itself, it can mess you up in your mind and make you do things you wouldn't normally do. And just simply having a conversation with somebody, the point of the group, the point of having, a trusted person like a chaplain or a pastor or everything that this says right here is because we can see it from a different perspective, okay? And we can talk with you about it. And I'm not saying that we're going to try to convince you. Just ask you some questions about it. Sometimes all it takes is a conversation to say, I really don't need to feel guilty about that. I know one question that I would like to ask is, sometimes in the situation that I talked about earlier, somebody lost somebody really important to them, and they feel a lot of guilt about something that they could have done or should have done or something. And I just ask them, what this person being in heaven right now, sitting there with God, what do you think this person thinks about you now? And of course, I think in any situation, sitting in heaven, hey, I'm all for everybody that I love down here on earth. That's my thought, and hopefully that's the thing that the question causes them to think about, So going on to survivor guilt, feelings of guilt based on having survived a traumatic event when others did not survive, or when others did not escape without serious injury. And we pretty much talked about this on the very first video. Lots of people that I've talked to that they've been in battle, they've lost somebody, and they just ask why am I still alive? And I think it's very, very near to false neurotic guilt, and it's just something that we feel. We're human beings. We feel like we should have been able to do something. We needed to do something, and maybe we could have done something. But the fact is that war, prevents you from doing a lot of things, split decisions, split second decisions, and we can feel a lot of guilt over that stuff. But once again, the working through that type of guilt is basically the same as the false neurotic guilt. Just talk to somebody, maybe they can put your mind at ease and everything. It's important to be able to have those support structures in your life. My pastor today was just talking about how important it is to have that team that surrounds you and loves you and supports you. He was talking about the time when the two guys brought their buddy, the paralytic, and dug through the roof of the house that Jesus was preaching in. And man, that's a lot of work. That's a true team member right there, to get on top of a house and dig through the roof of a house in order to get their buddy through that hole and down to Jesus Christ to be healed. And all throughout the Bible, it is suggested we need to be surrounded by people that love us. Moses, asked his father-in-law, his father-in-law said, you need help. You need somebody to do this stuff over here, to do this stuff over here. If you keep doing it yourself, you're going to kill yourself with all this work, and so it's riddled throughout the Bible that we need to have a support system. We need to have a team of people that love us. And so tomorrow I'm going to be talking about some shame and everything, but that's what I have for today. And thank you for listening. I'm going to do these push-ups. You'll have a good evening.